Hello, today we're going to walk through LightAct 4.12 to see what's new. The first thing you will notice is that the timelines window has been redone. So now, instead of having just timelines here, we have timeline groups, and then in each group we can have one or several timelines. The reason for adding groups is that groups are what is being synced. So for example, in the groups properties, you can select to what the group is going to be synced, and then you have an additional button. You can, for example, say, yeah, this timeline group is synced to a certain source, and then you can engage or disengage this source. Similarly, each timeline has its own engage, disengage status, and therefore the button, which basically governs whether a particular timeline is engaged with the timeline group. So there are two levels in terms of syncing. Most other things in terms of syncing still stay the same. You can have the option of following all sections, following separate sections, and so on. Similarly, you have the drop-down only one, which was the default one in timeline groups before, but now timeline group can also have multiple option where it is possible to have two or more timelines running at the same time if it's set to multiple. Okay, so this is one big area that has been completely redone. Another one is that timeline programming has been improved. You've got the track names here, and then you've got this nice little, we call it semaphore, in the bottom right. This shows the timeline update time. This shows the general volume of the timeline. This one shows the master fade of the timeline. This one shows the master volume of the section, and the left one shows the master fade of the section. Here you have the same controls as in the timelines window. Here you've got the label showing the incoming timecode. So if there was an incoming timecode here, maybe with an offset of 1 hour, here you would see the timecode time. So that is pretty useful. Another thing that we implemented is GDTF. So queues and layer personalities have been redone. Now, if you're testing the 4.12 beta, the layer templates might be a bit different, but anyway, let's just create a layer based on video layer template. And I can also do it in the properties. So if I expand the properties, here you see that each variable now has an include in DMX in option. So this fixes the issue that, for example, you mapped a video layer to incoming DMX, and you, for example, in 4.11, if you uncheck this, meaning that you didn't want this variable to be controlled by DMX, then the entire footprint changed. Now you see these two rectangles here, they just change in the color. So there's an additional, again, 2 levels, including DMX in basically determines whether this variable takes up channels in DMX in grid. And this flag determines whether it is actually being set by the incoming DMX value. Now the exciting thing is that you can now export GDTF personality, like so, and then you get the GDTF file that you can import into your lighting console. Same thing goes for queues. So before, the queues worked a bit differently. Now every queue, let's for example take a section. So first, every timeline has its own personality as well. So you can export GDTF of a timeline. And then if you map this timeline to DMX, for example, now it's universe 1, channel 1 to 2, then these incoming channels are going to be determining the place states, master fade, master polyms, and so on. Before, timeline was controlled by DMX, whereas now the control by DMX window only governs the master control, output fades, and global variables. The timelines and the queues are now inside the personality of a timeline. So the last 4 channels here, counting from the initial one, so that's the offset, determine the queues. And if I go to queue list window and expand it, you see that every queue, if we go to this timeline here, has its own DMX values. So if these 3 channels are going to be set to these values, then this queue is going to get triggered. If these 3 channels are going to be set to these 3 values, then this queue is going to get triggered. Now you can just, if you don't use 3 numbers for the queue control, you can just disable these flags, and this means that the queues are going to get called just by judging by the value, by one value. So play with it a little bit, and I think you'll find it good.